Hey guys, so for today's video, we are going to be talking about one of the most famous characters in the Call of Duty series, and a personal favorite of a lot of people, including me actually, and that character is Captain Price. So, we can't talk about Captain Price without looking at his history first. Who is Captain Price? Well, we're going to go all the way back to the original Call of Duty, also known as Call of Duty Classic on the previous generation of consoles, for the remastered version that came bundled with Modern Warfare 2. But in Call of Duty 1, or rather Call of Duty Classic, Captain Price appeared about halfway through the campaign, towards the end of the American campaign and during the entire British campaign. This Captain Price, he basically leads you throughout many of the missions, and he's always with you, and he's pretty all-around pretty chill guy, and I guess people liked him enough back then that he was eventually brought back in the future COD games. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's a different Captain Price, right, in the later Call of Duty games? Well, that is what we are going to discuss in this video. The generally accepted theory for Captain Price in the original Call of Duty game and the Modern Warfare series is that this Captain Price that we see here is different than a Modern Warfare Captain Price. This Captain Price is perhaps his grandfather, which is the theory that a lot of people in the community go with. But this is actually something that hasn't been touched upon officially in Call of Duty lore. And Call of Duty doesn't actually have too much lore in the background to it. It's got 3 different developers, 3 different universes, and it doesn't have a huge expanded universe like other games like Halo or Mass Effect does. But there is some background to it. But unfortunately, Captain Price, his history has not been officially confirmed by Infinity Ward. The Captain Price only appears in Infinity Ward games, with one exception, with a couple exceptions actually, but we'll get to that later in the video. So for this video, I will be presenting to you a theory, a game theory. It is in no way meant to be a serious theory because it doesn't have like a lot of lore to back it, but it is an interesting theory, I think, and I wanted to share with you guys and hear your thoughts on it. So this theory is that Captain Price is actually the same throughout all the games that he appears in, throughout all the Call of Duty games. And he is actually an immortal being. He, at some point during around World War II maybe, he discovered the Fountain of Youth or something like that, and thus he's able to live forever. And I will show you my evidence for that in a bit. Well, it's more of my theory evidence, but like I said, this is meant to be a fun video, and this is just a little fun theory for you guys. And who knows, maybe you guys might like the theory and find it more plausible than him, this Captain Price here being his grandfather. But anyways, let's continue. So, Captain Price, during the events of Call of Duty 1, he's about middle-aged, so let's say he's about, we'll say he's 40 years old. That's maybe average. Just like in later Call of Duty games, he's also part of the British SAS, and he also wears the same signature mustache that we see him wear in later Call of Duty games. Or rather, in later Call of Duty games, we see Captain Price wear the same signature mustache that he has in this Call of Duty game. But anyways, in Call of Duty 1, Captain Price actually dies at the end of the British campaign. Sometimes his body is here, sometimes it's not here. But if it is there, then, he's clearly dead. And other times it's just missing, which is actually kind of mysterious to me. Because where did he go? Because sometimes if there's no body, then you can't really assume he's dead. So it's a big mystery. But according to the game's lore, Captain Price in Call of Duty 1 officially died on October 27th, 1944. Which is during World War II, obviously. So 1944. That is a long time ago. But real quick, let me just show you a case where his body is there. So this is what Captain Price's body looks like when he's dead, when the body is there and didn't vanish without a trace. But anyway, so he dies in 1944 officially on the record. But later, in the events of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Captain Price is back. And this Captain Price here is still the spitting image of the original Captain Price. You see the exact same mustache and same name, and they're both also still part of the British SAS. So, could it be that perhaps Captain Price didn't actually die during the events of Call of Duty 1, and maybe he was kidnapped or, like, you know, taken by the SAS as part of some kind of super soldier experiment that lets him, like, live forever, kind of like Captain America, you know? It's I know it's a really outlandish theory, and you may be thinking, like, but wait, just no way. But, you know, just something to think about. Because this Captain Price, he really is the same as the original one. He smokes the same cigar, like, you know, he does the exact same thing. And I think I read somewhere in the lore that both of them smoke the exact same brand of cigar as well. You know, so in addition to looking the same, they all like the same things, have the same hobbies, and have the same jobs. But if this is the same Captain Price, then since the Modern Warfare series takes place from actually when the Modern Warfare games came out, they were actually set in the future during the year they came out. They were set in the year 2011 to 2017, which is in the past for us today, but it was in the future at the time of release. But at the time, by Modern Warfare 3, Captain Price would be over 120 years old by then. And, well, if that's the case, he looks great for 120 years old. He's still pretty physically fit and active. And, you know, despite all that, he takes quite a beating in Call of Duty 4. In fact, at the end of Modern Warfare, the game made it look like Captain Price died. It heavily implied it. Now, we all know, because, you know, we're from the future now, and, you know, looking back to the older Modern Warfare games, obviously Captain Price didn't die. But at the end of Modern Warfare, it definitely... And, you know, we didn't even know there was going to be a sequel at the time. But it definitely looked like Captain Price died. Because here in this scene, you'll see that he's pretty much lying on the ground and someone's trying to resuscitate him. But he's not responding, and they're, like, pounding his chest, which you'll see in a second. But, yeah, so... Captain Price... For those of you who play Halo, Captain Price is pretty much like the Sergeant Johnson of Call of Duty. Because if you guys remember in Halo 1, Sergeant Johnson dies like 20 times throughout the entire campaign. And he pretty much comes back to life again in Halo 2. And he's an invincible character throughout all the Halo games till the end of Halo 3, unless you do like a certain glitch to save him. But yeah, so anyways, back to Captain Price. As you saw there in that scene, he was being resuscitated, and the guy was just pounding his chest, like he's like, you know, like, no, we can't lose you, that kind of thing. And of course, it's a pretty serious injury, but Captain Price comes back again in Modern Warfare 2, just fine and looking the same, not a day older. And, you know, Modern Warfare 2 takes place, I believe, like 5 to 6 years after the events. Yeah, 5 years after the events of the first Modern Warfare. And of course, despite taking that huge beating in Call of Duty 4, Captain Price is once again still fine. And despite all that, he takes a lot of beatings again in Modern Warfare 2. And going all the way to Modern Warfare 3 as well, Captain Price takes an incredible amount of beatings throughout all 3 games. And yet, he always comes out totally unscathed. Now, I know you could say that's plot armor in the campaign, but if you look beyond plot armor, it could really mean that Captain Price he can't be killed. He's unkillable. He's like Thor or Captain America, like I said. But, well, actually, I'm pretty sure Thor could be killed, but he'd be pretty hard to kill. But anyways, Captain Price could be some like British super soldier of like a product of the SAS. Or he secretly discovered a fountain of youth, and that's why he can live forever. And throughout each, you know, game, he creates like a new identity for himself, so that people don't get suspicious that he's still alive. So that's why he like fakes his death in Call of Duty, in the original Call of Duty, possibly. But like I said, that's just a one theory, because it's a pretty wild theory. But Call of Duty technically does lean towards sci-fi in a lot of games. Even the Modern Warfare series has a few like sci-fi elements to it. But so why not go like full sci-fi and have the theory where Captain Price is an immortal being. But anyways, so here at the end of Modern Warfare 2, we see Captain Price, of course, take another huge beating when fighting General Shepard. And at 120 years old, like I said, he's doing pretty well for 120 years old. But if he's like an immortal being or like some kind of super soldier, like Captain America, then that'll be why he maintains his youth and vitality throughout all the Modern Warfare games, all the way from the original Call of Duty game. Now, once again here at the end of Modern Warfare 2, you once again think that Captain Price is dead. And of course you think that your character's probably going to die too, because you don't necessarily know that it's going to be in Modern Warfare 3 at this point. Because back then it wasn't a sure thing. But so here, you think that everyone dies and game ends and the whole world is saved. But as it turns out, once again, it's a red herring, and Captain Price is actually indeed still alive. And that continues over into Modern Warfare 3, where, like I said earlier, against Makarov, he takes quite a beating, and he does eventually beat Makarov, but and he's still fine. And he finishes Modern Warfare 3 by smoking another cigar. Needless to say, smoking that many cigarettes in his lifetime is also not good for him. So the fact that he can remain this healthy and this fit and this active while smoking that much is pretty impressive, and lends evidence to the theory that he can't be killed and nothing can kill him, nothing can affect him, basically. But yeah, so Modern Warfare 3 is basically the last time Captain Price appears in a Call of Duty campaign. He does get a brief mention in the Black Ops 2 campaign in an intel piece as part of a reference, but the Black Ops series is a different universe. That's from Treyarch. Captain Price is mainly an Infinity Ward character, so we're going to stick with the Infinity Ward games. Now, after MW3, Captain Price does actually appear again, just not in campaign like I said, but he does appear in one of the multiplayer DLCs, which adds legendary characters to the game. And in this DLC, it is for Call of Duty Ghosts. Now, I know what you're thinking. Multiplayer, that's not canon or anything, it's not lore, it's just multiplayer. Well, that's not entirely the case. There are instances like in other game series like Halo, where since Halo 4, multiplayer is actually canon. But that's up to the developers anyways. But the reason why I say Call of Duty multiplayer could still be somewhat canon is because Call of Duty multiplayer has always been like an extension of the campaign. The maps all reflect some like side story to the campaign that it's not covered, some like background lore that's not covered in the main story. And this actually goes like all the way to Infinite Warfare as well. Infinite Warfare maps, they have like extra stories beyond the campaign, like some background to like the UNSA and the SDF, like stuff they do, colonization efforts and stuff like that. And all up to Infinite Warfare, Captain Price once again appears, and this time he Captain Price can actually breathe in space. So here we are on the map Terminal in Infinite Warfare, with Captain Price here, standing on the surface of the moon, without a spacesuit, without a helmet, or any breathing apparatus. You can see right here his chest is moving up and down, meaning he's breathing in space, right on the surface of the moon, which is pretty hilarious. But if you believe in the idea that Call of Duty multiplayer, with the exception of Black Ops 4 because there's no campaign, but if you believe that Call of Duty multiplayer is based on the campaign and adds some extra like small background lore to the game, then with Captain Price here in space, this definitely is indisputable evidence that Captain Price is an immortal being that is unkillable. He actually, you know what? By like the events of Ghost, Call of Duty Captain Price, you know, assuming the multiplayer is part of the background lore, and that all the multiplayer characters are also like, you know, characters in the side story kind of thing. Captain Price will be in his 130s by then, as far as his age goes. And by the events of Infinite Warfare takes place around the year 2126. So, if this is the same Captain Price, and he's still like wandering around saving people, saving the world, saving the universe now, this Captain Price, if he's the same one as the old Captain Price from World War II, this Captain Price would be, as far as his age goes, would be in the 230s. And as you can see here, we are once again in the vacuum of space, actually in orbit around a black hole now. So you can see here, Captain Price is once again still just fine and breathing just fine in space without any protection. He's got his sleeves rolled up and everything, and he's actually looking pretty good for his 230s. So he's clearly found a fountain of youth, or is definitely some kind of super soldier, and is pretty much just doing his usual thing, helping everyone, helping the good guys, and like I said, just protecting everyone. And at this point in Infinite Warfare, he doesn't need to hide the fact that he's a super soldier. He just walks around in like space environments and doesn't need protection, just does his thing. But anyways, like I said, that does require the idea that Call of Duty multiplayer maps do add to the lore of the campaign, because I do believe that, because if you look at the multiplayer maps, the descriptions for the maps, a lot of the maps, their descriptions, they tell a lot of stories about the background of the map, and the background of the map is directly related to the campaign. Like in Infinite Warfare, like these maps, they tell you like what the purpose is. Like this one on we're on Europa here, first of all, on the surface of Europa. It's like minus like it's 300 degrees, I think. I don't remember what the surface temperature of Europa is, but it's freezing cold. That's actually like an understatement. And there's no oxygen either, no atmosphere on the surface of Europa. And here's Captain Price in the most extreme, harsh environment possible, just fine. But anyways, the description for this map is that it's a research station for the UNSA, and there's a lot of other maps with more like detailed descriptions about their background and what their purpose is. But yeah, so Captain Price. Could Captain Price from Call of Duty 1 be the exact same Captain Price that survived all the way through the Modern Warfare series, all the way through Ghosts, and all the way to Infinite Warfare, and possibly all the way to even further to whatever Infinity Ward brings out next? Well, who knows? Like I said, the most prevailing theory is that this Captain Price is modern Captain Price's grandfather, but there's never been any confirmation from the developers, no background lore, no actual like evidence to support that. What we have, it's, you know, the resemblance is like striking. They look the same. They have the same hobbies. They have the same mustache. They both smoke the same kind of cigars. They do the exact same thing. That's, you know, that's, I mean, you know, some people can say like they look like their grandfathers when they were young, but to have like the exact same like hairstyle and everything, and have the same hobbies and enjoy the same cigars as your grandfather is pretty unlikely. To the point where the theory that Captain Price is an immortal being or some SAS super soldier experiment is a somewhat more plausible theory. But you know, since this is a fictional video game and somewhat of a sci-fi series as the series goes on to the Modern Warfare series and later, it's a possibility. But yeah, so I would like to hear what you guys think about this. Like I said, this was a fun game theory. Just, you know, it's a thought that me and my friends came up with one day, and we thought it was a pretty funny thing, but it actually kind of makes a little bit of sense if you suspend your disbelief that Captain Price would be over like 230 years old by the events of Infinite Warfare and doesn't look a day over like 30 or 40. But yeah, I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on this theory, or if you have an alternative theory about Captain Price's relationship to this Captain Price from the Modern Warfare series and this series. But if you guys did enjoy this video and you thought the theory is interesting, make sure to leave a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. If I'd like to hear your theories or your thoughts of this theory, just let me know in the comments, and be there to chat with you guys about it as well. But other than that, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.